where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history, what body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psychology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out. On Friday the 13th, October 13th, 2017, this is Friday Jobber from WBRN Radio in Boston and on the Boston Red Network. A number of things going on here. First of all, we congratulate the Chicago Cubs. They're heading to Los Angeles to play in the National League Championship. The LA Dodgers, but we'll be waiting on them on Friday. They pull the game out and literally pull it out. This is from the Chicago Tribune. Cubs hold on for 9-8 win over Nationals in decisive National League Division Game 5, and that was in Washington. Evidently, the Nationals have been to the division games before, and they've not won them. Dusty Baker, no doubt, is very disappointed. A weakness in the Cubs, and we'll go in a minute, was obviously their pitching, and we'll recite what happened in the game. The game being what it was. There you had literally what turned out to be baseball bingo. And we have like a little 1-minute clip where they'll be talking about what happened there. And you see a situation here, one of the photos of the Chicago Cubs, and they're on the field. They're in Washington, D.C. We'll move from the Cubs and sports, and we'll have the people from the University of Virginia. That is Larry Sabato's shop later in the broadcast, and we'll look forward to that. And we'll see where we're going there. Let's just do a couple of things here. All right. Now we'll get this out of the way. And we'll move to the meat, I suppose, of the program. First of all, a number of things have happened, a number of machinations from the DJ Trump administration considering on Obamacare. An executive order was signed by none other than DJ Trump to cut off billions of dollars in subsidies to Obamacare. Now, basically what this is happening here, it extended insurance to 200 million Americans. It was condemned, of course, this executive order. And remember, President Obama signed numerous executive orders, and Republicans ran around talking about the executive orders and not using the legislative option. They are playing polyparrot here, basically the same thing. They could not get their legislation through the Congress. So they have went and ended around the states, two of the most populous states, California and New York, obviously will file lawsuits. We'll have some special programming on what we now term the Mickey Mouse health care bill. Remember, we had the Hopalong Cassidy bill, which failed, period. Now, this is from Reuters. People in his base will be happy about this, but they will be paying a lot more money. Now, this Mickey Mouse insurance thing, bare bones insurance plans, will be exempted from Obamacare requirements, which means there'll be very niggly type plans there. Healthcare premiums, of course, will increase. Now, we're going to need a number of days to do a full analysis on this. Next week there will be a full analysis, a much better analysis. We'll have better data sets. Now, what we do know is that healthcare stocks have been down in recent days. Anthem, that's one. Molina, Cigna, and various others. Their shares have been beaten down on the market. But some insurers have made plans for this, and we'll get to that. And remember, this is just a preliminary situation here. This is obviously not something etched, but it has already affected several states. Now, in Nevada, there will be changes there. Some of the senators from Nevada at this point in time will more than likely not be back after the 2018 elections, and they know that, and anyone who's been to a goat roping contest knows about it. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina raised their premiums by 20%, anticipating this. They would lower those premiums if the agreement were out there to 9%, so that's 11% of there. So these are some of the undermining steps there. It's easy to undermine a popular program, but it's very, very difficult to build it. And progressive people have to keep the eye on the ball. Is single payer, no doubt about that. But at the same time, now with social media and various other things, it is possible to put, say, 1 million calls into the White House switchboards, fax operation next week, and into these Republican senators, in particular Rand Paul. A few 100,000 phone calls there will keep Mr. Paul and company very, very busy, because from Mr. Paul you can get the latest on what is actually happening in the marketplace, as insurers now understand this is happening. Here we saw a grinning Trump with a billboard-sized signature, but that really doesn't matter very much there. Looking at Reuters here, and we'll get to California. We'll have a special program, incidentally, on California. A number of things out in the works here on California. We'll have a special program on the wildfires in California. 31 people have died. Even the house of the late cartoonist that drew Peanuts was destroyed in the fire. His widow was safe, however. So some things have moved on, and some things have not. Now, DJ Trump is busy in the international sphere. He's going to target the nuclear deal was signed by various nations, the EU, the Russian Federation, China,
in a speech, which will further isolate the U.S. So we have all of these machinations going on here at the same time. Nothing much we can do. We're at Reuters right now. The chief of staff. So in other words, there's instability within the White House itself. Chief of staff, the retired Colonel General Kelly, not quitting, said his job is not to control Trump. Well, obviously that is not his job, but Trump in his Twitter feed is making life hard there in the White House. And stay tuned for other people leaving that institution. There's no doubt about that. That will start to happen. So you have on two different fronts here, basically speaking. You have a foreign policy that is very, very confusing, that is very aggressive, and where it goes we don't know, period. It's one of those kinds of situations that continue. But this falls on the Republican Party. That is the problem right there. Some disaster funding for Puerto Rico has been approved. DJ Trump basically said the people of Puerto Rico could get along on their own. So we'll see how that works out here. This again, we're at Reuters. And work with their headline. Susan Collins, a modern Republican, plans to reveal on Friday whether she will keep her focus on Washington and make a run for governor next year. Now that's very important. Susan Collins throwing in the towel. She's 64. She's popular in her state. That nut job LePage there, idiot. She could no doubt defeat him. Now that race, let's see, when would that race? She'll be later today when she will make her plans certain. That's one more Republican leaving there. Collins LePage, well, this LePage character is an idiot. And in Maine, they have Angus King also. He's an independent. He's a former governor of Maine. So we'll see how all of this plays out, excuse me, in the state of Maine with Susan Collins. That would be in 2018. So there's some other people. Janet Mills is also, she is the Attorney General of Maine. So that'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out in the state of Maine. Let's go now to our normal lineup here. What I mean by normal lineup from the Washington Post and beyond. This is where we... And then we'll come back to the people at the University of Virginia. The Washington Post headline here is Trump to end key Obamacare subsidies, a move that will threaten the marketplace, no doubt about that. You get little snippets here as far as the financial problems. The cutoff would immediately subsidy $7 billion this year, not something to laugh at on Friday the 13th. Of course, he'd been threatening for months to do this. And one of the things about threats, once you do it, that's the end of it right there. You no longer have that type of threat. Now, you have involved here two parties that normally are not involved. The health insurers themselves and state regulators. They're against this particular move. This is the 5th year of open enrollment under Obamacare. And that will start in 3 weeks. Insurers had said they will stop the cost-sharing payments. Would be the single greatest step the administration has taken to damage the marketplace, no doubt about that. So these are some of the big items here. Less advertising, less community outreach. The progressive people are going to have to do the community outreach. Mary out in Montana sent along something we posted on Facebook. and we'll have more of that. A shorter enrollment period, uncertainty around. Well, the uncertainty around the subsidies is not an uncertainty anymore. It is gone. Spokesman for the American Insurance Plans, that is an industry trade group, had been warning for months about the effects of ending the payment. Immediately denounced that millions of Americans rely upon these benefits, to afford their coverage. That is from Christine Gross. Xavier Becerra, he is the Attorney General of California, who has been trying to preserve the payments through litigation. The president's action would be a sabotage, no doubt about that. Will take the Trump administration to court. Now, there are also bipartisan negotiations going on. We brought this up between Senator Alexander of Tennessee and Patty Murray, a Republican, said the payments should not end immediately, though they differ on how long these subsidies should be guaranteed. Cost-sharing reductions, or as they are known, have been a subject of political and legal seesaw. We talked a little bit about this. The federal courts, the Republicans have taken the Obama administration there. The federal court agreed they were illegal. The case has been pending before the Second Supreme Court, that is the District Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. The bailout of insurance companies through these unlawful payments is yet another example of how the previous administration... See, this is what abuse of taxpayers' money. It is not an abuse of taxpayers' money. Paul Ryan, and this falls directly... This is where the link that it falls directly on the Republican Party. Was dropping its appeal, a lawsuit, something the White House didn't mention in its announcement. Meanwhile, top Democrats, you can expect that Mr. Schumer and company here in a joint statement, and Nancy Pelosi, make no mistake about it, Trump will try to blame the Affordable Care Act, but this will fall on his back, no doubt about that. There's too many actors in this situation right now, and Beauregard, Sessions is in here, and these characters have all the time tried to do this situation. The administration will now argue that Congress should appropriate the funds if it wants to continue. In a recent interview, this is from the very red state of Oklahoma, Tom Cole. He chairs the Appropriations Subcommittee and said it would be difficult to muster support for such a move in the conservative House, no doubt about it. Critics, including insurance commissioners, most of the insurance industry, except for these characters that would be selling these Mickey Mouse plans, predict that a proliferation of these kinds of coverage will have a damaging ripple effect, driving up costs for consumers with serious medical conditions as pre-existing conditions, and that varies from hypertension, diabetes, cancer, you name it. A lot of things are covered there. Far-reaching elements of the order instruct a trio of cabinet departments to rewrite federal rules for associate plans. Now, this is a Mickey Mouse, a form in church which small businesses of a similar type band together for associations to negotiate. These plans have to meet coverage requirements and consumer protection under the 2010 law. In addition, the order is designed to expand the availability of the short-term insurance. Now, this is another scam. The Obama administration ruled that short-term insurance may not last for more than 3 months. Now, a lot of things in this order will become much clearer in days to come, but are not at this particular junction, especially the numbers. As of this summer, no state was known to actually offer or sell these policies. That's according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. Half a dozen states before it was passed. This goes back to 2010, as well as since then have passed laws permitting insurers to sell these policies approved by other states. Yet last year, the Obamacare allowed compacts in which groups of states could agree that policies licensed in any of them could be sold in the other under special compacts. But the special compacts have literally not panned out. From the New York Times, basically a very good article here by Maggie Hagerman and Reed, Abelson there. Again, Trump's scrapping of the subsidies and the usual disaster decorations from various people here. We won't go into that. You have basically the same thing here in terms of Lamar Alexander, etc., with 1,100-word directive to federal agencies. The president laid out groundwork for expanding the array of insurance products, mainly less comprehensive plans offered through associations of small-time businesses, period. Most of the changes will not occur until federal agencies write and adopt the regulations. Implementing this process includes a period for public comment. So it'll be very, very hard to get it ready for 2018. It would be more than likely 2019, but we'd not hold our breath or cross our fingers. But many patients, doctors, hospital executives, insurance executives were not so happy. They say the changes envisioned by DJ Trump would raise costs for sick people, increase sales of these bare-bone Mickey Mouse policies, and uncertainty. No doubt about that. Just understand not only the increased cost for a cancer patient, but the anxiety there, which itself would impact on the decision. Having had prostate cancer a number of years ago, I can understand that, and the situation is ongoing there. And if you obviously you have a relapse of what have you, and many people do with prostate cancer, breast cancer, etc., or as in our case, the results of the radiation, they call it prostatitis, which causes a bleeding there, and that has to be corrected, and it pretty much has been corrected. So, but these are some of the things that happen out there. And if you have hypertension, we also have hypertension. That, other than being life-threatening over a long period of time, can be solved with normally simple drugs and exercise. The quickest effect on the marketplace would be the potential expansion of the short-term plans, which are exempt from the requirements of Obamacare. Now, the short-term plans are able to siphon off healthy people, then the more highly regulated marketplace may not be sustained. That is from Larry Levitt. He's a senior vice president at the Kaiser Family Foundation. These plans follow no rules. And so, in other words, this is the Mickey Mouse plans out there. And we'll see where it ends up. Period. It's ending up right now in nothing more than chaos. But in 2017, the ability to sort out chaos is much better, because we do have analysis, very good analysis from big data. So in a matter of, we'll say, 7 to 10 days, we can have very good analysis out on what this will cause before it literally will have an opportunity to get its ugly head out there. This is from the Times, the editorial, Congress can't let DJ Trump kill Obamacare on his own. Well, no doubt they are working on it. Fed up with failures attempting Congress to repeal the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, DJ Trump took matters into his own hands, signing an executive order that could significantly damage the health insurance marketplace and harm millions of people. We won't get into what he directed there, but we've already covered that. Let's start with short-term policies. The Obama administration put in place rules that policies could last up to 90 days and were not renewable. They are currently meant for people between jobs. In other words, the short term we call a COBRA is, and that's a very expensive proposition. In most instances, it starts at least at $1,000. Is directing his aides to extend these plans and make them renewable. Well, making them renewable at $1,000, that used to be the floor. It's now going to be much, much more. From 1992, the General Accounting Office reported that such plans had left nearly 400,000 members and their beneficiaries with $123 million in unpaid medical claims. That's between 1998 and 1991. And now it would obviously be much more here. These plans are lightly regulated by the federal government and face little oversight by states because the beneficiaries are spread out across the country. So that's one item that we have. I mean, some of the numbers coming in. State governments, public interest groups, and others will seek to prevent some of the damage from the order. There are some hopes, and we're not much into hopes. They will also be able to sharpen the regulations during a public comment. Now, that is one of the things out there. We call it rulemaking. Will be there. DJ Trump, the disruptor here, before his order, he'd threatened to stop the payments. Well, that has become a reality now. We don't have to worry about the threats. But one of the things this administration should be cognizant of, whether it be in this sphere or in the sphere of foreign policy, once you go out there, and in our special program, employee benefit states need labor help in regulating multiple employer warfare agreements. Anyway, this is from 1992, a long time ago. Now let's fly on here. Equifax, their contract, a $7.2 million no bid contract, has been temporarily suspended. It should be permanently suspended. Short-term suspension means that taxpayers will not be able to establish new accounts through a program called Secure Access, which grants them access to online records and transcripts. The decision comes after media reports, obviously. The IRS will continue reviewing the security of Equifax, which has been more in the news and in security. This is from Politico in Jersey over in Newark. Senator Menendez's trial moves on. He was evidently singing Amazing Grace in the elevator after testimony from various Senate staffers, bureaucrats, private jet pilots, models, former senators, cabinet secretaries. Judge William Wall indicated that he may dismiss most of the 18 charges against Mr. Menendez. Let's move on. We'll see where he ends up here. Will he be indicted on some? Well, we don't know right now. We'll go to Professor Sabato. Incidentally, down in Alabama, and we'll have so many things going on here at once. Judge Roy Moore evidently accepted a side payment from some religious foundation. What is $150,000, more than that, a year for basically part-time work. How it's evolving in Alabama, we'll have to go and check that out. But the Virginia gubernatorial race is where things stand with less than a month off. This is by Godfrey Skilling. It's no surprise it's a top competitive race. The November of the year following a presidential election is always relatively quiet on the election front. It usually is. Races are for governor in New Jersey and Virginia. The Garden State contest looks like a safe Democrat contest. Yeah, in Jersey, there's never been a very close contest there. Now, in Virginia, you have Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam and Gillespie, an old a Republican hack. Polls have shown Norton leading by 4 or 5 points, a few points above the margin of error. Virginia elects its governors in off years, which fundamentally alters the nature of the Commonwealth's electorate compared to presidential cycle. And there's some charts here. 75% of registered voters in Virginia turned out in 2012-2016 presidential contests, and only 43% showed up in 2013. Was the highest percentage, had the highest percentage, 38% of voting eligible in 2013. To show up dating back to 1997. Based on what we know of voting trends nationally and in Virginia, the first two factors, the voters are more European, or what they call whiter here, and older, are good for Gillespie, no doubt about that. While exit polls have their issues, they show shifts towards a wider electorate from presidential to gubernatorial elections. Now, that is one thing Gillespie has in there. The exit polls found 70% of the Commonwealth electorate was a European. That was in 2008, 2009 gubernatorial race. It was 78% in 2012. The exit polls found Virginia's presidential electorate was again 70% European. In the 2013 gubernatorial, it was 70%, 72%, 2% digit points there. The third shift in the electorate would be it would be more educated, probably good for the Democrats there, because one of the more important demographic factors in voting, more highly educated voters tend to be Democrats, no doubt about that. What will be the Trump factor in Virginia? I don't know. Trump hasn't been shown around Virginia very much. Hillary Monster Clinton carried Virginia, and over DJ Trump, also over Bernie Sanders. Gillespie is not seen as someone who is a Trumpian. Now, he's tried to avoid Trump as far as he could. He used to head the Republican Party. Trump used in, 2016, well, this is quoted as far from that. Now, let's see here. Admittingly advantageous environment in 2014's Senate nominating running there, while his coup demeanor is far from that of Trump. Gillespie is in some ways taken pages out the same playbook. Trump used in 16, running ads on immigration, law and order, most notably ones focused on the Latino gang, MS-13. So he's doing the same old tricks, kind of a Willie Horton in Spanish, Espanol. For example, when the president waded in on behalf a few days ago, talked about MS-13. Needless, the two candidates' level of party unity is not drastically different in recent polls, and we looked at some of this polling here as far as where the party base is. Together, the Confederate monuments, immigration issues could be very useful for Gillespie. Just consider Gillespie's mail of peace that claimed Norton wants to tear down the history. So in other words, Gillespie has went a white supremacist here. There's no doubt about that. So people in the Commonwealth of Virginia have to be very, very aware of this, particularly when older voters, European voters, come out there that want to keep those monuments out there. Gun control has entered the race there in Virginia, Norfolk. There'll be more, the aftermath of Vegas, there'll be more potential for Norfolk than for Gillespie. I'm kind of dubious of that situation. In terms of television advertising, Gillespie's campaign has tried to strike first throughout August. The ad buys were double that of Norton. That's not unusual. The Republicans usually always double. But Norton has picked up now, and would save you money and use it when you can. Evidently, that's what Norton has done. He's had $3 million more cash on hand than Gillespie. Now, Gillespie has basically spent his money. Terry McAuliffe raised $1.8 million. McAuliffe showed people how it's to be done in Virginia. But Virginia has term limits and a lot of other Mickey Mouse laws as circumstances in Gillespie's campaign. This is a conclusion. Have made this more of a law and order election, which potentially has hurt Northam. The favorable environment that is a fairly unpopular Republican president in the White House and a relative unpopular Democratic governor. That's not good. Is helping to keep the Democrats slightly ahead of the ball game. But a lot of this will turn on turnout. A common concern for Northam's campaign has been the recent history of polling in Virginia and nationally have missed some of the conservative votes. No doubt about that. You have to be very, very careful. In 2013, that is McCullough leading Ken Consinelli, 45.6 to 38.9 with the Libertarian in the mix. Although McCullough led by 6.7 points, he only won by 2.5 in the election. Very, very close election, and that was in 2013. Republican voters, considering this is the Libertarian candidate who was came home to Robert Sarvis came home to the Republican Party. Now, in this, there's also another Libertarian candidate clip, Hyra, Hyra, has at 3.6 percentage higher than his polling average, while McCullough was only, Kersinetti was only 2.1% higher there. Most notable, some swing states in the 2016 presidential race. But also in this contest, the Kentucky gubernatorial contest, Northam has to hope is if it's a different party holding the White House. The polls are either on the mark or off the mark. And when you look at his polling there, 4 or 5 points, if there is a problem in the polling, and if you look into the margin of error, averaging itself doesn't do justice. We'll take a closer look at this, but at this point in time, the Democrat Nathan is holding on by the skin of his teeth. Now this could change. We'll have to look at this and continue look at it. All right, finish looking at it. Let's go to sports now. Finally, we've already talked about the Cubs and their victorious. Well, let's get from the Boston Globe. 10 top candidates become the Red Sox manager here. This is by Nick Carafando. And we'll inherit a good team. We'll have a power bat in the middle of the order, and Dave Dobrunsky will either sign as a free agent or not. That's what John Farrell did not get. Then he could cross his fingers and hope that his starters can win a game or two in the playoffs. John Farrell didn't have a chance to get that done. So we'll see where that goes. I'm not sure it will. These are some of the managers here. Brian Ofumus. Anyway, he's from Detroit. And Ron Gardenhire, he is the bench coach. Used to be with longtime Twins manager, old school manager with great interpersonal skills, can relate to younger players, and has a stern side to him. He battled through prostate cancer this season. I can sympathize there, but returned to help the team's decision-making group under Torrey Lovano. That is the D-backs. And Alex Correa, he's a bench coach in Houston. Bo Porter, special assistant in Atlanta. Porter managed the Astros when they were rebuilding. That was in 2013-2014. Evidently did a good job. Then he went on to Atlanta. Charlie Montayo. He is with, he's a Tampa Bay. A lot of bench coaches coming up here. Terry Collins, the former Mets manager. Yeah. Eric Wedge, he is a consultant with Toronto. That's another Dombrowski's Tigers went against Wedge. Okay, anyway. And DeMarlo Hale, another competent bench coach who knows the Red Sox culture, with Terry Francona. He rose to manage over there. And then we have Brad Mills with Cleveland, another bench coach. So this is, I guess, the contest of bench coaches basically here. And Gable Kapler, director of player development with the Dodgers. The next manager will may not even be on the list. That's very true indeed. There are other people out there. Tony La Russa, he didn't appear Tony, who used to be in Oakland and St. Louis, 73 years old. I don't think he would be out there. If he loses the National League playoffs, the Washington manager Dusty Baker could be available at the end of his contract. And Joe Girardi, remember Joe used to play for the Yankees, he'd be available too. Freddie Gomez, the former Atlanta manager. So in other words, there's a whole list of people that could be available. The ex-White Sox manager, remember Robin Ventura used to play, is also someone Dombrowski has competed against. And then you go to more bench coaches with the Marlins, Tim Wallach. Let's see who else here. Well, David Martinez, he's a Cubs bench coach. Tony Pena, the former Red Sox catcher, was once the AL Manager of the Year with the Royals. Larry Bowa, with the Phillies. Remember Larry Bowa? So these are some of the gentlemen that could be managing here. Now let's go to ESPN and finish it up. The National League Course Championship will be on Friday in a Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. And we'll see how that pans out. On the Monday Morning Quarterback, we'll have more statistics available. Period. And let's see where we are here. Not sure why we're doing the scores here. Again, that was 9-8. The line score here, the Cubbies had 9 hits and no errors, and the Nationals 14 hits and 2 errors. A lot of hits in that game, no doubt about it. We'll just hit the playoff schedule very quickly here. Incidentally, out in Salt Lake City, the police officer that manhandled Mrs. Waddles out there was fired. He's appealing, and that was in the Desert News. And the Desert News is, of course, owned by the Mormon Church. League Championship Series, the Yankees will be in Houston, Texas tonight in Game 1. And they will also be in Houston in Game 2. The Astros on Monday the 16th will move to Yankee Stadium, or whatever the Yankee Stadium is called these days. And Tuesday they will also be in New York for 3 games. Wednesday the 18th, and if there's a game 6 and 7, they'll move that to Houston, Texas. Now, the other series will start in Los Angeles. Game 1 will be on, this is National League Series, on October 14th. October 15th is Sunday. That'll be Game 2. Game 3 would be in Wrigley Field on Tuesday the 17th, Wednesday the 18th, and Thursday the 19th. And if there is a Game 6 and 7, they will move back to Los Angeles. That will be the World Series. That will be the National League Championship Series. The World Series will start, and I was getting ahead of myself. The first game will start on October 24th. And Game 2 on the 25th. That'll be on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they'll have a travel day on October 27th, 28th, 29th, and Tuesday the 31st. And this will end up, if they have a Game 7, on November the 1st. So that is where they are. On the Monday Morning Quarterback, we'll have the Vegas numbers. We're also working on a program for BR on the World. That's an international show on Catalina, the independence movement there from Spain. So we've been working on that for some time. And we will have a follow-up on Ms. Waddles out in Salt Lake City. I think we'll turn that into a special program. And next week we'll have more on the Mickey Mouse Healthcare Executive Order by DJ Trump. And we'll go now to a little bit, about a minute or so, of the broadcast last night from Washington, D.C. The Cubs announcers there. This is just purely for demonstration purposes about what is called bingo baseball. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on the week that was and on a special program. And perhaps if we have time, we'll have numbers, man, no doubt about it. And we'll look at the economy there.
Jay swings and fouls out of play. Yeah, your baseball bingo card, right? You're sitting there and the last one you need is catcher's interference. Bingo!
Yeah, you're the winner.
You got the wild pitch. Sign from Wieters. There it comes, and Jay just got hit. Another run in. John Jay gets plucked with the bases loaded. It's 7-4.
And now Dusty is going to go out and talk to Jerry Lane once again. And Jerry Lane asked immediately down to third base to see whether or not he swung. And I know Dusty is asking, but there's nothing to ask about. This is a slider inside, hits him in the back knee, and John Jay does not swing, so it's an RBI.
Yeah, he clearly did not swing at the pitch. As you said, they did appeal down to third base. And this strange inning continues. The Cubs now have scored 4 runs in the 5th and lead 7-4.
Ron Culpa, the third base umpire, he was right on the call. He immediately said signal safe. There was no swing. Well, you were looking for a little baseball bingo. How about hit by pitch RBI?
P.J. Mainville came out to check on Jay. Not quite sure where that pitch got him on the leg. They score 4 times, and we go to the bottom of the 5th. And the all-or-nothing Game 5. It's the Cubs.